If you think you're psychic, maybe you are.
Hi, I'm Zim, and this is the first episode of my planned series, Monthly Esports Stocks Watch. That's a mouthful. Before I start, a couple of words about myself and why I am doing this. I'm from Budapest, Hungary, excuse my Hunglish, and I consider myself more than a casual but less than a hardcore gamer. I'm also a hobby investor, as far as I own a couple of stocks. One of the industries I'm investing in is esports, so I keep my eye on this segment of the gaming industry. I decided to start this series partly to make a record for myself about my esports investment decisions, and partly to see if some of you may be interested in a video series about this topic. I have no financial background whatsoever, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. On the other hand, to give some credibility to my words, I got a confidence boost when I came across an esports ETF and realized that some professional investors identified the same stocks as key esports investment that I did based on my gut feelings and some makeshift research. The name of this ETF is ESPO, and I'll show and talk about it in a minute. Before going into the unscripted part of my musings, I'd like to note that links to the articles and videos I'll cover will be included in the description of this video. The series is very much a work in progress and subject to change, but I plan to cover 3 topics each month: an esports stocks chart snapshot, news items that I came across in the past month impacting the esports industry, and the state of Overwatch segment, using Overwatch as a lens to look into the evolving story of esports. And now for the unscripted part. So here's the esports ETF I mentioned in the introduction. If you are interested in investing in esports or would just like to keep an eye on how this segment of the gaming industry is doing, this is an ETF you may want to look into. If I scroll down here, you'll find the list of companies included in this ETF. Even before I came across this ETF, I already had stocks in Tencent, Activision, and Electronic Arts. A couple of words about each of these companies. So Tencent is a Chinese company. They are big on the Chinese gaming market, and in my impressions, Asians tend to like gaming and esports, and Tencent also has a significant interest in Epic Games, the publisher of Fortnite, one of the most streamed video games, at least on Twitch, in my experience. Activision Blizzard, yeah, lots of games here. The one I'm most interested in is Overwatch because I consider it as a great game itself. I play it a lot. It has a professional league, and Activision also owns, if I remember correctly, an esports TV channel. The last one is I'll say a couple words about is Electronic Arts. They are the microtransaction machine company, and the esports implications here are that Electronic Arts owns the publishing rights, the game publishing rights of a lot of real sports. I don't know what's the right word. Franchises like FIFA, NFL. I think there is a lot of esports potential in broadcasting professional gamers playing these real sports games. Another issue I would like to mention here is that it's a tricky thing finding the right companies to profit from the potential rise of esports. You cannot currently you cannot just go and find the esports company to buy stocks in. So currently, most of the companies most of the esports related companies are publishers themselves. So that's why I think this ETF is a good measuring stick for how the esports industry is doing, and it spares you the effort of finding the right stocks. But my opinion is that finding the right stocks is half the fun. The idea behind this stock chart snapshot segment is to keep track of how these esports related stocks are doing for myself and as well as for those of you who are interested in this. Unfortunately, I try my best to find the best way to present these stocks in the most straightforward way possible, but all the stock charting software I have found they just become very cluttered when I add a lot of stocks there. So in this first episode it will just be a proxy segment. I've added a couple of stocks here and try to do a makeshift analysis. In the long run, what I plan to do here is I'll either try to find a way, some software or application or web application that could provide me and you with an uncluttered view of all these stocks. But my gut feeling right now is that it will have to be a table that I create for myself. And okay, so for some makeshift analysis here, so the stocks I have added is on this chart is Activision, EA. This funky symbol here is this is Tencent, and I added Amazon as a reference. Again, the problem being that it's not straightforward to find stocks that directly reflect how the esports industry is doing. But I added Amazon here because they own Twitch, which is like one of the most popular game streaming platforms. Most likely, currently, Twitch is just a minute fraction of all of Amazon's income. But yeah, I just added it here for reference, and I also added Coca-Cola for two reasons. One of them being is to have at least one, let's say, not esports related stock, and I will contradict myself right away because I bought some Coca-Cola stocks when I realized that they started to advertise in the Overwatch League. So a couple of things that stand out here. You see Coca-Cola, that's pretty much linear. But one thing I noticed is, and actually this was also covered in the news, I will show you an article, is there seems to be right now some sort of gaming market crash in this end of last year, beginning of this year. So you see here Activision and EA going down at the same time. And one of the interesting things, again, regardless of the fact that these are just a bunch of random stocks that I added here, I couldn't help but notice that Amazon, a downward trend in the Amazon stock price actually coincided with the downward trend of gaming companies. I spent some time trying to figure out what could be the reason behind it, and yeah, it's hard to come to any kind of conclusion. The best explanation, if you can call it that, is there's a phrase in the Hungarian financial news. I think it translates to English. And the phrase is the markets were nervous, which basically is just saying that either nobody knows what's going on, why stocks are suddenly going up or down at the same time, seemingly unrelated stocks. The other explanation could be that's a bit of a conteo that very few people can influence these trends, and they are trying to profit off of it. And the third explanation, possible explanation, is that the companies involved in the AAA segment of the gaming market, they may be oligopolies, only meaning that for AAA titles, maybe the free market mechanisms do not work simply because there are too few competing companies on the market, and that would kind of explain the situation why the stock price of these companies tends to move in the same direction. One thing I would like to note here is also this Tencent, which is yeah, that's a gaming company, but it's they are Chinese, so maybe their stock price is not directly correlated with how the gaming industry is doing in the rest of the world. Okay, and as far as the market crash, here's an article I would like to show you. This is from gamesindustry.biz. I don't want to go into all of the details. There was like a rumor or speculation that the reasons for all of these stocks falling is that Fortnite seems to be like the most popular game, and nothing can compare to Fortnite. So investors may be worried that Fortnite will be or going to be in a monopoly situation, and that's one of the, I would say, makeshift explanations for why all these gaming company stocks started to go down at the same time. But I happen to believe with the conclusion of this article. I'll scroll down to it. It's a pretty long one. Oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah, sorry, it was in an article included in this article. I'll add links to both of these in the description, and the conclusion here is this part. So some analyst is saying that we believe that recent share price performances and current valuation multiples suggest structural uncertainty, which to us is far from reality, he wrote. In fact, the video game segment is in root health. I actually had to look up the term root health. It means not, it doesn't mean that it's in bad health. It means that it's actually in very good health. So in this esports news segment, I will try to cover news items that I believe are impacting or will be impacting the esports industry and the gaming industry in general. And the first and most impactful, I believe, is this piece from Eurogamer, and it says that loot boxes are banned in Belgium and the Netherlands as well. Um, this is something that I couldn't agree more with. So games of chance are usually state monopolies and should be regulated. I firmly believe this, and I find it especially stomach-turning and very unethical that these big gaming companies are with these loot boxes are essentially aiming at providing gambling and aiming gambling at children. And even though if this goes through and more and more countries will declare loot boxes gambling, even though it may hurt my gaming and esports stocks, I just based on principle, I very much agree with this approach, and let's say I'm willing to suffer the financial consequences for protecting children and actually exploiting children. I think the big impact here, the biggest impact of this will fall on EA uh, with the FIFA loot boxes. And as far as my expectation, uh, I believe that this, at least in Europe, more and more countries will follow the example of Belgium and the Netherlands. And I wouldn't even be surprised if this issue would be handled on the European Union level. As far as the rest of the world, China, I think I haven't looked into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they followed suit. And as far as the US, uh, I don't know. I just hope that there will also be legislation against this stomach-turning practice. The next item I would like to say a couple of words about is this is rather an interesting story than a news item, but there was a very interesting article on Kotaku about how EA and BioWare handle their new game Anthem. The article is very long. I don't really want to go into all the details. The gist of it is against like most people's expectations. I think big companies can make very big mistakes. And the reason I included this article here is that I believe that there may be an interesting experiment going on at EA. So they pretty much released two games at the same time, Anthem and Apex Legends. Anthem is plagued with everything that EA has been criticized for a long time, like loot boxes, play to win mechanisms, and stuff like that. And Apex Legends, on the other hand, I believe is an attempt at or an experiment for EA to see if they can still make money without using their, how to put it, greedy and aggressive, overly aggressive microtransaction practices. As far as the numbers, the reception of Apex Legends has been good. It's a free-to-play game. There are lots of players, and I think it has also been critically acclaimed. So I hope if this is an experiment, I hope the result will be that EA will learn that they can make money in more ethical ways. And if Apex Legends turns out to be pretty good, then this amount of money may even be more than with their greedy practices. Okay, the next couple of news items I won't go into detail on. It's just a collection of articles that I found that kind of tend to indicate that esports is becoming mainstream. So the first article is from the Express, and the reason I include it in here is that when I googled the Overwatch Storm Rising event, I was interested in the starting date, I think this was actually the first hit on Google. Overwatch Storm Rising Archives event start time, new skins, end date, new mission, more. And it wasn't the first hit wasn't like the Overwatch official homepage. It was a tabloid news item, which was yeah. So esports may be becoming mainstream. The next two videos, I won't show them, I'll include them in the description. These are a couple of TV news stories about the Overwatch League playing in Dallas for the first time. For the uninitiated, the Overwatch League is a professional league for Overwatch players. They have city-based teams from all over the world, but in the current phase, all of the teams and all of the games are played in Los Angeles. But I think from next year on, all of the teams will locate to their hometown as far as what's in the name. For example, there's a team called Houston Outlaws. They are my favorite team, and they will move to Houston according to the current plans next year, I believe. And I very much like this experiment by the Overwatch League to rationalize the irrationality of rooting for a home team. It's I very much recommend these videos because it's not often when you see, for example, Reinhardt landing an Earth Shatter and the whole arena just cheering like as if their home team scored the goal. And the last item in this eSports mainstream topic is a very interesting. This is a very heartwarming interview by Mica Burton, who's she's the son of LeVar Burton. You may know him from as Geordi from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And again, it's just uh, very heartwarming little interview about a father and a daughter playing games together. Okay, moving on. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it either. This is the article. This article is the reason I included Coca-Cola on my stocks snapshot chart. Again, I think it may be an indication when a big company like Coca-Cola signs a multi-year sponsorship deal with an esports league. And last item, I would say, I'd like to say a couple of words about this piece of news from gamesindustry.biz again, and it's about Netflix doing the competitor analysis, and they say that Netflix says that their main competition is not HBO and other streaming services, but Fortnite, the game Fortnite. And yeah, I think that they are on the right track as far if I just consider my media consumption habits. I'm a Netflix subscriber, but I really do spend a lot more time uh, playing Overwatch on my big stream TV than watching Netflix shows. The last section of this video I titled The State of Overwatch, and in this part I would like to explore the potential of esports using Overwatch as an example. Uh, Unfortunately, I plan this video to be around 10 minutes, but I'm also editing it while I'm recording it, and I'm already at around 20 minutes. So for the sake of brevity, I will cover just two topics from my notes. The rest I will save for the next episode. So as far as money-making potential of eSports League, I would like to use the command center subscription service of Overwatch on Twitch. The idea here is that if you subscribe to this service, you can watch the games, not just the broadcast feed, but you can tailor the way you are following the games. For example, you can uh, view the game from the point of view of your favorite player. I'm a subscriber. The subscription costs $15 or 15 euros. And the reason I would like to spend some time on it is I looked into these community challenges. So basically, what happens here is that you can unlock these stupid little achievements for watching the games. And one of the achievements was watching Command Center. I'll show it here. And the criterion for getting this for the community getting this achievement was that 200,000 people watched the games in Command Center. Now there have been free periods where as a promotional period when you didn't have to pay for Command Center, but if we consider that or if we just assume that a third of these 200,000 people were paying customers. That's $1 million for the Overwatch League. So I think this is a pretty good example of how an esports league can make money. And the last topic I would briefly like to touch on is another other way for games and esports leagues to make money, and that's expanding on the lore of the game, which is basically just the imaginary world and the characters in that world that are playable in the game. And as far as Overwatch, there was a crazy guy who put together a make-believe Netflix trailer for an imaginary Overwatch Netflix series or movie. And as an Overwatch player and as someone who talks to uh, some of these some other Overwatch players, I have never seen a game that the player with base was so interested and invested in the lore of a game, and it looks at the moment that Blizzard just cannot satisfy this demand. On the other hand, according to the latest financial results of Activision Blizzard, the plan is to allocate more manpower to the Overwatch game itself. And I think that opens up the potential of Blizzard expanding the lore of the game, not just within the game, but for example, with creating a series on Netflix or some other streaming platform. And as far as an indication for the demand of this kind of content, this video, this make-believe Netflix trailer, was watched by almost 900,000 people. So I believe there is a huge demand for let's say stories around Overwatch. Let them be TV series, comics, whatever new media form they can come up with. And putting two and two together with the success of the Overwatch League, the popularity of the game itself, and now Blizzard having more manpower to invest into the game and into the game's lore. Uh, when I believe there's a huge potential. Like I feel like it's a perfect storm. So once the teams, the Overwatch teams, relocate to their hometowns, the game and the Overwatch League being popular and popularizing the game itself. It's a good advertisement for the game itself. And Blizzard having enough manpower to explore the role and lore and these characters. Uh, uh, Not just in the game, but in other forms of media. I really do think that's a perfect storm, and each of these elements can reinforce each other and can make me happy as an Overwatch player and can potentially also make the investors of Blizzard happy. And that's a wrap for my first monthly esports stocks watch. If you liked it, please consider visiting me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch. The username is zim_plays. If you like this video, feel free to like it. If you didn't, feel free to dislike it. And all your comments are welcome. Thanks for watching. Good luck. Have fun.